Hi guys, welcome to our 49th YouTube live session, or also Instagram and Facebook and all the other live sessions we've gone live on at the moment.
Can definitely tell Joanna's in the room.
So we're in Pocklington today, so we've streaming from the Market Tap. So
here with the Pock Massive.
And we're just trying to dial in all the technology. So, like, as usual, if we've got any challenges, if you drop a comment, please keep an eye on the comments while I'm trying to get this initial bit underway. As usual, lots of the I've been here for a couple of sessions, so it's obviously a show. So as usual, the more interactive these sessions are, the better. The more questions we get from the audience, the people at home.
Oh, now you're nicking my lines.
The more fun it'll be. My name's Wayne. I'm MD of Brew York. To my right is the beautiful Lee Grabham, production director at Brew York.
I've been called many things in my life. Beautiful is not one of them. Anyway, thank you.
And just quickly flashing the names on screen. So Pocklington, we haven't been here for probably 6 months, bloody hell, almost a year. Wow.
October, almost a year. Wow.
That's passed pretty quickly. Yeah, exactly. Apologies for the late change of the date. We told you on the live stream we're going to do it on the Friday. We realised we'd kill all Dom's take-ins if we took up half of his venue on a Friday, so we had to rearrange to a Wednesday. Plus, there's quite a few things going on that we'll come on to later on for the event circuit on Friday. And somebody's got to go to Scarvados for a tour. Not a tour,
I'm off to watch Korn in the open air theatre. Yes. And you've still left the title, and it looks like I've been promoted to managing director.
I thought I took that one off earlier. I did try and put yours on. There we go. So 4 beers to try tonight. Lee's going to tell you which ones they are, but as usual, not unlike usual, there's no dark beers to take out the fridge this time. It's controversial, but it's also supposed to be peak of summer as well. So we thought if there's going to be a month where we don't do a stout, it'll be this month.
Yeah, it's just balancing things out. We did 2 stouts last month, and now we do none.
Obviously, we haven't got, well, not obvious, but we haven't got any guests with us tonight. We've got plenty of people in the audience we can cut to and ask some questions to later on. You'll probably hear Joanna. You probably have already heard her. We've also, so from the Brew York team, we've also got Dom stood in the wings as well. I'm sure we can fire some questions his way. Dom's the general manager here at the Market Tap. So any questions specifically about here, we'll maybe put him on the hot spot later on and interrogate him.
And thanks for your feedback from the last session. I think having the broader team on was well received. Not a thing we're going to do all the time, but it's nice to introduce you to some of the other guys behind the scenes that probably work harder than you and I.
So as we always say, if you like the content, make sure you click on subscribe and like the video. We don't do it for monetary reasons. We just do it to actual measure how well these things are doing, and if you guys are enjoying them. If you're not,
we do it because Pete tells us we have to do it.
It's something he tells us we have to say. And if you got get any questions in for this after the session, drop them to info@brewyork.co.uk. So what we're going to drink?
So we are going to be starting out with the 10th iteration of Hop Session, so Hop Session 010, which is a hop changing pale. As to what hops are in it, we will be detailing shortly. We then move on to Splinter, which is a 4% yuzu containing pale that's been brewed with our great friends from Ossett. We then go on to the very original Brew York Nuba, first brewed back in 2016, now reinvigorated for 2024. Very much looking forward to drinking that one. I have not drunk that, even in tank, post-packaging. Head brewer Johnny tells me it's fantastic. So let's hope Johnny's right. And then we're going to conclude in a slightly different direction. We would usually finish on a stout, but this time we're going to finish on a 7% smoothie sour. Which has over 2 tons of fruit in it. So 2 tons, yeah. A ton of mango alone, and then various other things, which we'll detail later on. So also in your box this month, you would have had, it would seem it is the month of sevens. You could have had a Shed 7 beer called Homecoming, which is a 4.5% hazy, or you could have had Current Affairs, which is a 7 Brothers collab. So interesting how that fell into place, which is a 4% berry sour. So as we discuss each beer, we'll talk about the recipe, the concept behind the beer, anything that's unique about the production, how we came up with the name, the branding, etc. Whatever is unusual about that particular beer, we will detail. And just to reiterate what Wayne said at the start, stealing my line, whereas we need this to be as interactive as possible, so we need you to get your questions in. And in fact, it's even more important this month, because with each beer, we always do a specialist subject, as we call it. First beer is always, what have we been? Last beer is always, what can you expect in the month to come, whether that be the beers in the box or the various events that you can find us at. And then the middle two, we tend to mix it up. The second beer, we will be talking about Ghoul Market Hall, and Wayne has got some fantastic artist impressions or images to show you of what we're planning to do over at Ghoul Market Hall. And we're going to talk a little bit about some other plan changes to some of our other bars, but at a very high level, because we want that to still retain some surprise when we actually do these things. And then the third section, rather than it being a subject this time, we're throwing it out to you guys. We want your questions. And for you in the room, I'm really putting you on the spot here, because I'm definitely asking you all. So when we get to the third section, the third beer, Nuba, I want to see your hands go up. I want to see some questions. You guys at home, if you want to get a question in, you just post it below this video. Wayne will be keeping an eye on, and any that he deems worthy, he will flash up on screen, and we will answer at an appropriate point. So all of that said, we will move on to the first beer, which is Hop Sessions 10. And my, I can't call you beautiful, but my colleague, my business partner, my work wife, Wayne, will be talking you through this one.
That's me. We only finalised the prompts about 5 minutes before we jumped in our generous taxi across here. So Pete, our marketing manager, gave us a lift across to Pocklington, which is really handy. And Lee finished the prompts, like I say, 5 minutes before we jumped in that taxi. So if I'm a little bit surprised by which bit's my sections today, then apologies for that. But I should be able to talk about the beers, because this is one of the beers I actually have tried. So Hop Sessions 10, as we've said previously on these streams, it's our hop changing beer that we bring out usually around one a month. Although we've spanned it maybe 6 to 7 weeks before in the past between iterations. So 4.5%, was 4.5%, is now 4.2% hazy. So this was the origins of Coney, which is our permanent 4.5% hazy. This is how we came up with the recipe for that. And since then, we've dialed the recipe down a little bit, made it a little bit more accessible at 4.2%. So to do that, we removed a little bit of the grain content. So there's a bit less sugar going into it. So there's less fermentables to convert into alcohol later on in the process. So by bringing the ABV down a little bit, we made it a little bit more interesting for you guys. It's not the same as Coney every time. And then we change up the hops. So we can try out different varieties or different combinations we've never tried before. And in this case, IDO7. Interesting fact about IDO7 coming later.
No, that's the next.
Oh, that's the next one.
That's the next one. Damn. I've told you what's going to be in number 11. So it's this one that's this.
All right, so it's a classic. So this is a really classic American style hop combo. So Amarillo, which is a beer. It's a citrusy hop, which we never used to be able to get hold of when we first started Brew York. Used to really enjoy this beer in a lot of the modern American pale ales that were coming out at the time. Don't see it as often anymore. It's not on vogue, is it? So you don't see it in that many beers.
Yeah, I think, around about the time we were entering the industry around 2015, 2016, it was in a lot of things. I remember like Badco, not a million miles away from us, did a very good Amarillo containing beer. But Citra and the like was really starting to get on vogue there. And Amarillo is a beautiful hop, but it's going to cost about as much as Citra, but you're not going to get as impactful a return from it. Yeah. So people stopped using it because, as nice as the flavour was, you weren't getting the same kind of bang for buck. So I think that's why it's kind of fallen out of usage a bit.
And yes, Citra became so popular. Most of the hop growers in America were dedicating all their harvest, or a big chunk of their harvest, to Citra, which meant the price for that beer, price for that hop came down a little bit, made it a bit more accessible. So more and more brewers then started using it. So it becomes a bit self-fulfilling, where the hop farmers need those hops to sell well to justify why they've dedicated so much of their crop to it. Amarillo, yeah, really nice hop, but it's also been paired with Centennial, which is another classic American hop. This one, I really enjoy Centennial a lot in darker beers, so like India Stouts or the black IPAs. It works really, really well. It has a citrus flavor still, but it's not quite as, overtly citrus as Citra.
Well, they kind of call Centennial Super Cascade. So Cascade is the hop that 40 odd years ago kind of sprouted the entire craft beer revolution through Sierra Nevada's Pale Ale. And then a few years after that, people started to use Centennial and they call it Super Cascade. So Cascade has a kind of, Cascade has a grapefruit-like character, and Centennial has a more intense grapefruit character to it. So you, like with Amarillo, you get, or with Citra, rather, you get more bang for your buck with this particular hop.
And then the final hop combo we used, this one was Mosaics. Mosaics a hop we use a lot of at Brew York. It's one of our, in pretty much most of our signature beers. If they're hoppy, they'll probably have Mosaic in them. You get lots of tropical flavors as well as the citrusy flavors you get from some of these other hops. So great hop, we use it a lot, and in that combination, I quite like it. It's probably not my favorite hop sessions combo we've done, but I think it works quite well.
Oh, well, I picked this combo, so that's not good. I think I did.
Did you
Johnny might correct me on this.
Did you choose the proportions?
I would have done as well, yes. So Johnny, head brewer Johnny, he picks most of the combos for this, but every now and again I stick my beak in and I opt to pick the selection. And I think I did for this one.
Well, you didn't use Sabro, so that's a bonus. As far as I'm concerned, the fewer Sabro hops we use, the better. But everyone else loves them. So,
not everyone.
So we actually have the next hop sessions already in tank, which is again a spoiler alert to then. Hop sessions 11. I bet you couldn't have guessed the name. That one's going to be Equinox, Idaho 7, and Mosaic again. So it'll be interesting, that one. Idaho 7's been pretty popular in the beers we brewed. That's the sister hop to Talus, isn't it?
No. That's Sabro and Talus.
Yeah. So Idaho 7, what's the interesting fact?
How is
that hop named?
So it was found in Idaho, and it was found growing in row 7. So that's why they called it Idaho 7. Really not that fun a fact, but he insists on rolling it out all the time.
I just want to make sure everyone's well educated in the.
It was the 7 theme that went with everything else.
Oh, no, yes, another 7 theme. We have a number of the day. It's like being on Sesame Street.
Yeah.
It's the 7th birthday this year.
Last year.
Next year's our 9th birthday, Alan. Unless you have a TARDIS that you'd like to travel with.
Alan's had 7 beers already, that's why. So out of the hop sessions combos we've done so far, does anyone in the room have a favourite?
Can you even remember
Can you remember them, yeah?
Oh, if you don't remember the combos, is there a particular number that you liked of them? You quite like 6? 4? 10? Joanna likes 10?
I've got a feeling not many people will be saying 7.
Yeah, so 007 was our foray into the use of English hops in this style, which we were quite proud of. We thought worked quite well. The general consensus was that it was not our finest work, but it was. You don't know unless you try.
The whole point of the series is to experiment with things we wouldn't normally do, and English hops has been something that we haven't done that much of. So there are really punchy, good English hops out there now. So we need to try them out. And although that specific beer wasn't our favourite of the series, it was a pretty good beer still for an English hopped IPA. So yeah, I liked it, the fact that we did it and tried it. But yeah, there's definitely better combos.
I think that people aren't used to English hops, so that's why we probably wouldn't have picked it out as a favourite, because they're going to get used to a lot more English hops.
Right. So Joanna's asked off camera, is it because people are not as familiar with English hops, and that's why? Potentially, I think it's probably more so that with this series, we've done up until that point 6 of the beers featuring entirely American hops that grow in an irrigated desert and consequently have massive impact. And then we've got hops that are grown in East Anglia, Kent, that Worcestershire, those kind of areas. That, as far as the UK goes, it's a decent amount of sun, but it doesn't compare to an American desert. So I think we probably established a precedent that it was always going to be hard for them to try and match. If we'd just done it as a standalone beer and said, forget whatever you've seen us do before, this is an English hop beer, then maybe it might have got a better reception, I think. And it's not the end of our work with English hops. We still will have plans to do various other things.
Are English hops more expensive?
Sorry, we've been asked off camera if English hops are more expensive. No, English hops are a lot cheaper. If you just think of like your food miles type thing, so they're going to travel a lot less distance. Over in the US, it's like an irrigated desert, so their production kind of techniques are probably going to cost a bit more as well. They have fancier pelletization equipment. They have the best of everything, as you might expect in the US. So consequently, that comes at a price. But the English hops, the serving is substantial, but it's not as big as you might think. So if I was to take Citra, we're probably paying 24, 25 pounds a kilo. Harlequin, which is one of the like new English hops that's aiming to have American-like characteristics, I think we maybe pay about 16 pounds a kilo on that. So it's a decent enough serving, but it's not a huge gulf.
So, got a comment I put on screen from John Benger. He said, "Loving hop sessions. Said it's got a nice punchy bitterness." So that's a really interesting point because compare this to Coney. If you guys drink Coney regularly, it's really, really easy drinking, really soft, and that was the intention because we're brewing the more modern New England style. This hop combo is typically used in the beers that me and Lee talk about all the time, the West Coast that we like, because it has more of a piney bitterness to it as well. So that's quite. It is a hazy, but it's definitely leans more towards your mountain IPA, in that it's
yeah.
bitter as well.
I think that's a fair description of it, actually, a mountain style IPA, and that's because when we brew these hop changing pales, we use the hops in the same quantities, and that's irrespective of the amount of bitterness in those hops. So if the hop, is more naturally bitter, the beer's going to be more bitter because we don't compensate in any way for that. We're just trying to give you a good representation of those hops in all their characteristics. So bitterness, aroma, flavour.
So one on screen as well at the moment from the Peaceful Dog. What was our favourite hop sessions combo? So Hop Sessions 4, which then became 4.5, which then became Coney, was the combo that I really liked, and you obviously really liked, because that's why we went down that route for a signature beer. But if we park that to one side, for me, probably Hop Sessions 8. I really enjoyed that.
I was going to say, if you're going to ask me the combo, and I can't remember.
Yeah, someone remind us what combo it was. But yeah, I just remember it being the one after the English hopped one, and then it stood out to me because I really enjoyed it. And when I was in the tap room, I probably drank that one over Coney, which is quite unusual for me.
In fact, this will be the first time I've done this live on it. I think I've got the spreadsheet open with it in somewhere.
That'll make some good viewing. Get your spreadsheet open.
Them back again?
What we'd probably do is look towards the so Hop Sessions 8, for example, Eldorado, Strata, and Simcoe. I remembered that one.
Not because it's just...
so we probably then take that hop combo and make a new beer using it. So trying to modify the grist, the grain for the body of the beer slightly, and then the proportions of the hops we might alter slightly, create a new beer, and then put it out into the market and come up with a witty name for it. Not Hop Sessions 8.
Yeah, what we found is, since the advent of craft in particular, people's drinking habits have always been about the new thing. So as much as we might like a previous one of these, to release it under that name again, it just wouldn't sell as well. So like Wayne has said, if we really do like that particular combination, coming up with a new brand, a new daft name, and then using that combo again would be the way to go.
So shall we move on to what you've been up to? I haven't been up to much.
You've been up to question mark according to the notes. So I actually had a rare week off in the last month.
You have 2 weeks off your last month, but one was doing a festival.
Oh, meow. I will move on from that point. So I've had.
You haven't talked about the festival, so you haven't
No, we did the festival last time.
Oh, sorry, I wasn't.
I'm sure people are sick of me talking about that particular festival. So, yeah, I've had a week off, which was one of those kind of holidays that you then need a holiday to recover from, because I spent most of it gardening or doing DIY and the like. Although we did have a couple of nice days out in Harrogate and Whitby, which is one of my favourite places, not only in Yorkshire but in the world. I absolutely adore Whitby, so I love getting over there again. And it concluded with an evening at York Proms, which is in the Museum Gardens. You take a picnic along, and then some the Yorkshire Symphony, if that's the right name for the orchestra, play various different prom tunes. It was superb, amazing setting for it. Really nice way to end the week off. And then since I've been back in, my whole life seems to be maintenance and changing stuff at the minute, which I actually kind of enjoy. I don't really enjoy the status quo, so if we have an opportunity to change something, I'm all over it. What about you?
Lots of stuff I can't tell you all about, like usual. Lots and lots of bar-related things. So it's really exciting. Ghouls are one thing I can tell you more about. I'll give you a bit more about that in the one of the upcoming sessions. That's one of the upcoming Q&A bits later on, and hopefully some video content to share with you all. The existing bars, the new ones we bought recently, trying to get those fully established and make tweaks here and there. So spending a lot of time with the teams on that, which has been really good. If you haven't seen it yet, you might not have been to any of the venues yet, but if you haven't seen it yet, the work that Uncle Tony and the team have been doing at Otley in our beer garden is amazing. So we when we took that place on, we knew it was going to be a really interesting venue for us. It hadn't really been shown much love over the years, and it was a great venue that had a lot of potential that hadn't really been utilised. So we saw the garden and thought this could be really, really good. And we have built this really nice seated area, lots of planting, lots of lights, and an external stage area where you can have live music. So the first time every Thursday we have an open mic night, and they moved outside the first time it was done. It just looked amazing. It made you want to travel across the Watley just to catch the open mic and either come home or stay the night. So yeah, I've been trying to get the rooms running as we'd like them to as well. So really busy on all that, which has been good, and the feedback we've been getting is great. So that's nice to see. And then keeping our eyes on other opportunities, what other venue opportunities there are out there, and yeah, just trying to keep the momentum going while things are.
Can't say too much. Let's just say irons are still in the fire.
Yeah. And again, there's a bit later on we're going to talk a bit more about is existing venues and what we're going to do over the coming months to enhance the existing venues. So lots and lots going on. And in terms of what I've been up to outside of work, unfortunately not too much at the moment, just trying to sneak the odd day out here and there. Me and Sal have our dog's pretty old now, so you've all seen us with little Tia. She's about 18 and a half, and she's got to a stage now where she doesn't particularly like going out to the pub for very long. So that's what we used to do, take her to the pub. Now we'll take her to the pub for a couple of beers and then take her home to nap, and then we go back out to the pub afterwards. So just trying to stay close to home so that we can make sure she's enjoying herself as well. So lots and lots going on. And,
how long have I known you and therefore Tia now?
We've had Tia for 10 years. So you'll have, yeah.
I don't know, right? Because she was raised in South Africa by your mum or dad or your sister?
Yeah, it's my sister's dog.
Yeah. So Tia, for the entirety of the last decade, has been shivering. All she does is shiver because she's used to South African weather.
Or climbs under as many duvets as possible. So yeah. So yeah, we've been keeping ourselves pretty busy as usual. And one of the reasons that we needed to move the YouTube live session was because there's even more going on now. It's peak event season, so trying to get the balance right of who's going to which events and where we're going to be throughout the country. It's a fun time of the year, but it's not good for the liver, I don't think. So.
Tell me about it. Right, before we move on to the next beer, have we any questions? Any in the room? Are you saving them for when we get to beer 3?
When it comes to hop growing, have you noticed any different climate change in the hop field, further and further north in the UK?
So Bob's asked off camera, have we noticed any difference in hop growing as the climate change is advancing in the same way that we're now growing grapes in the south of England, that kind of thing? I'm not aware of any change as far as hops go. I think they're very established farms. I imagine if you opted to, you probably could grow them a little bit further north now than you have historically. But I am not aware of that happening, but it could be.
There's also the fact that it does take a few years for these hops to come around. So that exactly, before you can commercially sell a hop, you're going to need to have them in cycle for what, 3 years or 4 years?
Yeah, it's about 3 years to grow it. If it's a new hop, they compare it to a pharmaceutical cycle where from the idea to the actual point at which you can sell it is about 15 years.
And then we start getting warm for a few years, and then we get rain, so lots of rain. It's a bit unpredictable. But obviously the established markets where they've got the hotter climate and they've been doing it for years. They started this program years and years ago. And when Lee said that the imported hops cost a lot more, they do one of the reasons is because they invest so much money in research and development. So you're repaying some of their time and energy that they've spent to try and create these new varieties.
Thinking about it, there are other places in the world where climate change is impacting hop growing. So Germany, for example, is getting wetter, and that is proving to be a big problem for the growing of hops. So some of their classic varieties like SARS, one of the reasons we had to change the hop that we have in Golden Eagle is they were having flooding and so forth. So therefore, their yield each year was getting less and less. So the big guys who had it in, I don't know, Pilsner Urquell, whatever, had contracted it all out. And consequently, we had to swap to a different hop. And I've picked the wrong hop there because that's actually a Czech hop, but the same thing applies. But Germany are having... Their missile fruit is the one which we were using. Sorry.
And then the guys at Elvington Brewery who've made quite a few award-winning lagers. Speaking of award-winning lagers,
in fact, highlights of the last month. We definitely should have mentioned the fact that last Friday was the SIBA Society of Independent Brewers, and the A now means something. And associates. Alcoholics, exactly. And associates. So that's our trade body. And once a year, they do regional judging on cask, keg, can, or small packs, so keg, can, or bottle. And then if you win at that stage, you go forward to the big annual event, and then you can win a national gold, silver, bronze. So the regional keg awards were held last Friday at Triple Point in Sheffield. And how did we do with it?
Not too bad. We entered 4 beers because there's a restriction on each brewery, so we're only allowed to enter 4 beers. And of the 4 we entered, the only one that didn't win an award was the previously award-winning Juice Forsyth. It's won loads of awards with them, so it's obviously off vogue with them now. So that didn't win this year. But we weren't too disappointed because Golden Eagle picked up gold, so the best lager in the Northeast. Overall category winner, not just gold. So that was really pleasing. Coney won bronze in the pale ale category, and Loris won gold in the alcohol-free category. But the Loris was really pleasing because the feedback, we got a little bit of feedback on that one, and being that it was, what did you say? Something like the only beer that they want.
There is a slight problem with low alcohol judging at the minute, that you're grouping all forms of low alcohol together. So we put our very juicy pale up against everybody else's low alcohol lagers. So it's nice that we won, but at the same time, perhaps not that surprising that we won, because it's the one with lots of flavour.
But yeah, really pleased with that, because that's been a beer that I've drank quite a lot of over the last, since we launched it. I really enjoy the fact that we can go to have meetings in some of our venues now. We don't actually have to drink alcohol every time. We can have something that's really enjoyable that we brew that doesn't contain alcohol. And we're just about to launch a new one, which we were hoping to get in your box for this month, which kind of controversial because I know people like to have a bit of alcohol in their cans. But we've got an alcohol-free lager which we're about to launch in a couple of weeks' time, and it's actually packaged now, so it's tasting really good. It's for people who didn't used to drink lager, it's becoming quite a mainstay in our range now, the different lagers we make. So really pleased with how that's tasted. So you guys will all get to taste that in next month's box, and hopefully on draft not on draft and can in the venue near you soon.
If we'd not had yield issues, it would have been on draft. But anyway, so next March, those beers will go forward to Liverpool to be judged to see if they can get national gold.
So I think we're an empty glass. I need to get pouring the next one so you can start talking about it.
Cool. I have to have an empty glass first for that to happen. So the next beer we're on to is this beer here called Splinter. As to why it's called that, I'll come back to in a minute.
It's a bit convoluted.
A little bit tenuous, but anyway. So what we have here is a yuzu pale. So a pale beer, and we've taken kind of an XPA grist, so something very simple with a bit of ice, bit of maize, and then we've infused it with various different fruits, chief of which is yuzu. And this came about after lots of discussion with Paul Spencer, who's the head brewer of Osset and Salt and Emmanuel's and Fernandez and all the various other things that Jamie Owner of Osset has swallowed up over the years. And Paul had approached us a while back, I think, to say he wanted his brewing team to get exposure seeing other brewing environments, and could he and perhaps some of his team come across and have a day seeing how we did things. And we said, absolutely, but if you come in, you might as well brew a beer while you're here. So we then set about trying to decide what to brew. I think we really went round the houses on trying to work out what to brew here. And eventually we landed on this yuzu pale. It's been hopped with Amarillo, which is kind of citrusy, and Nelson Sauvin, which is the New Zealand one that's a bit white, winey, grapey kind of character. And then it's been fruited not only with yuzu, but also with orange, red grapefruit and lemon juice. And that's because we're being cheapskates, because if we only use yuzu, you would not be able to afford this beer. You would not want to pay the price it would have ended up being if we'd only used yuzu. So hence we've used a combination of these other fruits alongside yuzu to give a flavour characteristic of yuzu. And Paul brought over with him the Osset yeast. And we first of all brewed a cask batch. And then 1 week in, we then harvested the yeast from that batch. And then we brewed a keg and can batch. And that is what you're drinking here.
So this beer is a fruited pale. It's not a sour, but you will definitely get sharpness from the different fruits we've used and a zesty, like puckering. So I think it's going to be a bit Marmite-y in some sense, that some people will not get this beer. Some people will hopefully really like it, because my first mouthful then I pulled a bit of a face myself, because
I did notice, actually.
I was getting a little bit used to the.
I was thinking I must play you at poker sometime.
It's like when you get the if you eat grapefruit and you get your first spoonful of grapefruit and you haven't put any sugar on it, you're like, oh, and that's kind of what the yuzu fruit does to it.
There we go. Right, well, I'm going in.
And exactly, a few sips. Well, yeah, and in the audience we're just saying that the keg version tastes a bit different to the cask version. And this is one occasion where the two beers will be slightly different. We've used a slightly different recipe in both beers. When the guys from Osset came to brew with us on the cask brew day, what was the main difference?
I didn't know we had.
I think we used more yuzu in the keg version than the cask version. I think we used more of the similar flavors, like the other fruits in the cask version. I can't remember which way round it was.
I don't know. I was not informed.
Why do you do different recipes?
Why do we do different recipes? In this instance, hard for me to answer because I wasn't aware we had. But you might do a different recipe for cask and keg for a few different reasons. So with keg, this foam bit on the top's not so essential. That's not considered a critical part of drinking that style. Whereas with cask, if you didn't have that tight foamy head on top, you would think there was something wrong with your beer. So it's quite common if you're going to take a keg beer and you want to turn it into a cask beer, that you're going to add more kind of wheat, torrefied wheat, and that helps with the kind of like nice foamy head. So there's things like that you might change, that would change not so much the flavour of the beer, but would change the way in which the beer would present itself.
So what do you think, which fruit has got the oils in that it's killing the head on the stupid.
Well, there's a lot of citrus fruit in there, and their flavour is oil derived, so it could be any of them, if not all.
So I was going to show it on camera with the first beer, but the Hop Sessions 10, every mouthful I had left a lacing like you get with cask beer. So the whole way down the glass, I was getting I say the whole way down, it's probably only about 4 gulps, I seem to drink it that quick. But you're getting a little ring of foam around as you're drinking it. And that's what we really want to do with all cask beer and some keg beer. If we could do it with all keg beer, we would. But it's because it's a different format, it's a little bit harder. Whereas this one, every mouthful I'm having, the head on the beer seems to be disappearing.
Do you know what I can identify there? Is I have drunk over the years a lot of Osset beer, and I can identify their yeast character in that. I can definitely taste their yeast character in it.
Yeah, White Rat's one of my favourites, and probably one of yours as well, which is probably where the name derived itself.
Yeah, well, before I get into that, when I used to live in Huntington, so I've recently moved the other side of the city, so I'm like a stone's throw from the brewery now. But I used to live in Huntington, and my local pub, its only redeeming feature was the fact that they had White Rat there. So I wouldn't go in often, but if I ever did, that would be the only thing I would be drinking in there. So yeah, as I kind of said at the start, Jamie Osset over the years have bought up smaller breweries that they've kind of respected the beers of. Emmanuel's Fernandez, and another one was called Rat Brewery out of Huddersfield, I believe, and they do this beer called White Rat. And I'm sorry, Pete, but I think Pete, our marketing manager, at first got a little bit confused about who we were collabing with. And it was Osset, the owner of the Rat Brewery. We weren't collabing with the Rat Brewery. And I think there was some talk about us doing our interpretation of White Rat, which I think is why the team ran away with this idea of this rat concept. But in the end, we didn't do that. We've come up with this yuzu beer, but they decided to go with the rat theme. And I hear that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles are back in these days with the kids. So Splinter was their, what would you call it? What would you call it? Sensei, thank you. So he was their sensei who trained them with all those martial arts skills. Yeah. So hence that's why we've gone Splinter. It's a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle /rat/Osset tribute.
He's our favourite rat.
Yeah, and that is not even by any distance the most convoluted or tenuous name we've ever come up with.
No, but it's getting there. It was one where the branding guys had the brief. They'd already gone down to develop the beer, and we looked at it and we were like, "How come we? What we going with this one?" So, but no, I like it. I like the branding. I think I would have loved to have done a White Rat tribute. So if we take like a Karma Rat, you take two similar style beers that we both brew and try and get the best elements from each of them. That would have been something I'd love to do. I love the White Rat. I love the bitterness on the beer. So every you first have a mouthful of it, you get the bitterness, and you want to go back and then have more, and it becomes like a real Moorish pint. You do get some sort of bitterness from this beer, but it wasn't an ode to White Rat in that sense. It was more the bitterness and the piffiness from the grapefruit, I think, in this one.
I know my wife wouldn't appreciate this. But one, she doesn't like hoppy beers, and two, she has an absolute mortal fear of rats. So yeah, would not appreciate that artwork. So let's move on.
Okay, let me. You answer this question.
Go on then.
While I try and tee up the next bit.
So, question: are you looking forward to London? Leeds LIBF, Leeds International Beer Festival, and any spoilers? That's from Emma Thomas. So yes, we can do a spoiler because I think it's going to come up later on today anyway. We tried to make a habit of launching new interpretations of Tonkoko at Leeds International. So it was where Imperial Tonkoko first debuted, I think, back in 2017. And this year at Leeds International, we will be launching what we're kind of internally calling Mookies and Cream, another Pete idea, moo as in cow. So it's a cookies and cream interpretation of Imperial Tonkoko. That name was not my, I've done some daft names in my time, but that one was not mine. So 7.5%. So 7.5%, exactly the same as Imperial Tonkoko. So what we'll be doing is we'll be brewing one batch of Imperial Town Cocoa. We'll then be splitting it in half. Half will be the original, and half will be adulterated into this cookie and cream thing. And that will, I probably haven't told anyone this is launching at Leeds. The sales team are now going to be annoyed.
No.
We are definitely doing that.
Right?
Right?
Up for that. So, yeah, it's an annual thing now. So Leeds International, we're sponsoring again this year. So we're going to be in the TP. We're going to be in the Brew York TP. So we're going to ask if we can be in exactly the same place as last year. So if you came to see us there, you'll know where we are. We're going to take a big lineup. Going to have at least 10 different beers pouring at any time.
Wow!
And one of the things that I've asked the guys to do is the last beer we're going to go on to will be back in the soft serve slushy machine.
Oh,
so
check it out again.
That's going to be pretty cool. We just need to hope for good weather now. So fingers crossed.
I mean, good weather would be good, but do you remember what the weather was like last year? It was like in the middle of a heat wave. It was
so
absolutely
hot,
ridiculous.
And the TP was actually pretty good for that because we were open side and we got a bit of a breeze going through. Whereas the guys at not Amundsen, what were they called? Or what are they called? Lervig. Lervig's TP was horrendous. It was just like the sides up all
they had
around.
their own little disco thing going, didn't they? Yeah.
Sweat disco. It was horrible.
Nice.
It wasn't them. It was horrible. The weather was horrible.
I mean, I just looked ahead to our event schedule that we're detailing later, and I didn't realise Leeds International is actually a month away now. So that's coming around quick. Yeah, 5th to the 8th of September. Spoiler, there we are.
So we had a chat about this and who's working it earlier. We said Joanna's got to be on like a training montage now for the next 4 weeks to get into shape. So she can, to get her leg back in shape.
Everybody needs a montage.
So she's ready for Leeds International. So before I dig myself into any more trouble, let me tell you a little bit about Gull Market Hall.
Oh, I thought you were off to the toilet.
No, definitely not. So one of the things we managed to secure probably, was it 4 months ago? It was ages ago. We managed to secure the lease at Gull Market Hall. So Gull Market Hall is a redevelopment that the Gull Town Council have got some funding for. So they're going to refurbish the whole thing, and they went out to tender back in October, November last year to get someone to run it for them. So we put ourselves forward and we went through the process of trying to convince them that we were the right people to run the place for them. Thankfully, all that hard work paid off and we got awarded the tender, but we weren't allowed to announce it until after the election. So we were sat on this news waiting to go, but we finally got to the position where we were allowed to share the news.
Yeah.
So,
and I think thankfully a few of the people in the selection committee or on the council have clearly been patrons of our beer hall and have liked what we've done across in York, and they wanted to see a little bit of that across in Gull.
So I'm going to try and do a video fly through. We've got a 3D model that the group Ginger, the architects, have pulled together, and I've been using quite extensively to try and flesh out exactly what we want to do in there. So at the moment, it's not branded in any way, but it's a really cool overview of what we're going to do. So fingers crossed the technology works. And it'll appear on the screen up here.
We do have a slight delay in the room, so you're going to have to wait a little bit. But it will be coming.
I don't know if I can remove us from the screen or not. Be added onto the stage for you to hear us. Can you hear us again now? So we might have to accept it. The little
we've lost audio. So Daniel, Emma, can you now reply to let us know if you can once again hear us?
So I can do the annoying thing where I'll go back to the start. It's not annoying. It's quite cool.
Is this just a section that
Yeah.
you
Right. So Emma's replied, "Yup." So they can hear
So we're
us
back
once
on
again.
again.
Right.
So the whole market hall will be our lease. So this whole building, the rear yard, everything we'll be running. So we'll be selecting the food vendors that are operating there. We'll be running the bar, and it'll be us in charge of making sure the events and entertainment all happen. So that's the fun we've got to come up with and work on. So we can zoom into the venue. You can see if we get Lee's dinosaur friends coming down, and when he was the caveman and he used to kill these things. Or we could put on a boxing event in there. There's all sorts of different ideas, guys. Or a trestle market. So we could have the one thing that they didn't show because we weren't involved at this stage is this would make a cool venue for a beer festival. So swap these trestle markets for bars running either side, people coming down the middle, the food vendors that obviously doing the food bit. It could be pretty cool. And then got a little zone where people can work, so a little hotspot zone where people can come and work during the day with a coffee and cakes or even a alcohol-free beer. You don't want to see that one, but it gives you a cool overview of the size of the scheme. There's all sorts of different zones in there. I'll try and cut to some of the really cool bits. The landscape's nice.
Who is it in the business that has the creative ideas for those spaces?
Me? No, the creativity of these spaces was this stage was done by Group Ginger Architects on behalf of East Riding Council. So we've now we're involved in the project. We get to input into this. So we've got the guys from United by Design working on a full branding concept for us. This isn't going to be Brew York Ghoul. This is going to be Ghoul Market Hall. And then when you go in there, we've got a brand we're working on that will apply to the different stands and kiosks in there. And one of them will be Brew York's bar. The other bit will be the different food vendors we're going to use. So
there's a concept we had developed probably as much as a year ago that we've been waiting for the right opportunity to bring it to market. And this is...
and we won't be using slogans like "Ghoul is cool," unfortunately. That's something that, for whatever reason, someone put on there. And
we're very excited to bring you this new concept.
But it's going to be really cool. And the garden itself, the outside space is going to be amazing with full bifold doors. Whole thing will open up and you'll be able to go straight from the bar into the garden. We'll have, I don't know if I told Lee about this bit yet, but part of I'll try and get back to the main bit.
I mean, they're certainly spending some money. I mean, there must be about 20 grand's worth of bifold doors there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So we've still got the boxing stage and stuff, but the live stage, which is pretty cool anyway, but you can zone it off with curtains and stuff. But on the live stage, when you've got bands or comedians or anything up there, or we could be doing a live tasting in there, there's a camera that then puts it on a... It's hard to drive this thing, honestly. We've got a huge screen on the wall here that's not shown in the imagery because the architects weren't that keen on it, but I really love it. The other side of the dinosaur, there's going to be an absolute huge screen, and I thought it was a bit overkill. I thought it might be a bit of a waste if we had this screen in there. But what they've told me since then is that anything that happens in the venue can be put onto the screen. So if you've got music, anything, you can see that screen from any part of the venue. So all your music, entertainment, everything can be put up there, or you can just use it to advertise what beers are pouring, what food deals are going on. So it was.
So what are you thinking? Karaoke then?
Yeah, exactly. So we can do some pretty cool karaoke nights. So that's my awful attempt at trying to drive around the venue and show you a little bit. We've got lots more to do in terms of now the colour schemes, the branding, the rollout of that. But more importantly, you guys are probably more interested in is when, because there's a lot to do.
Yeah, there's a lot to do. It's going to have to be done it's going to have to be done in stages. The aspiration was to have it open for Christmas. Enough of the work will be done by Christmas to probably have a Brew York presence there, but it will not be complete. So we'll probably have more what you would call a pop-up concept there over Christmas, and then later on in the spring of 2025, it will be fully done and complete.
Summer.
Summer. Wow.
So or
Wow.
this time next year.
Will there be a grand opening?
Yeah. So there'll be a huge party there to launch it. It's going to be lots of events. Part of the requirement for us running it is that we have to run X number of events a year to make it a really fun place for the local community, which is just something that we'd love to do anyway. So yeah, pretty exciting. But unfortunately, the contractors were appointed very late. The final designs are only just going into them, so that they anticipate. Well, they're trying to mitigate, but they're anticipating a summer 2025 launch, and we're going to do what we can to make that as early as possible. But yeah, it's pretty cool, and loads of really good ideas going into it at the moment. So once we know more, we can share more.
Will there be capacity for how many people going?
Yeah, so capacity-wise, it's got seated capacity for over 300 people inside. So a lot bigger than our current beer hall. Outside, it's got another seating for another 100 plus people. So that's and then if you've got an event or function on, it'll be more like 400 to 500 people. So really big space. 4 food vendors plus us, the drink vendor. So lots and lots to serve people as quickly as possible and make it really function well. And yeah. Pretty cool to be part of this, and
pretty cool, very cool. I personally, I'm honoured that Brew York has been selected to do this, and I'm sure we're going to do a fantastic job of it. And I cannot wait to get over and see this place.
Yeah, well, Alan just said, should we do a Shed 7 gig there?
Wow.
On the little stage.
I mean, as much as I'd love that, Shed 7 tend to command an audience slightly larger than 500. So it depends on how intimate a gig they're willing to do.
Well, speaking of Shed 7, hopefully you guys have got Homecoming in your box. The beer's gone amazingly well for us. It was relatively, we talked about it for a while, but it was relatively late in the day, so we didn't promote it as much as we'd like to, because we were fully focused on the actual Shed 7 project, the main Shed 7 project, which is their upcoming winter tour. So Homecoming was literally 2 gigs in York for their Homecoming. Their winter tour is a nationwide tour of promoting their album, and we're doing a beer for them for that as well. And part of that, we're begging and pleading and asking them if they'll do a Hanley gig. It's going to be a lot to get them to say yes, but fingers crossed we could do an intimate gig in Hanley, maybe a few hundred people, like Kamara scale. That would be pretty cool. So,
I mean, I won't count your chickens.
You guys will be the first to know if we do. So.
Yeah, I mean, when I was chatting with, was it Tom? He said, "Yeah, I'll take it to the band." It was like, "Yeah, I know that's not happening." Anyway,
so yeah, that's going to be cool. That's cool as it was 4 months ago before we started having input into it. So there's lots of little things we're going to bring to the table now, and hopefully enhance the amazing work the team had already done before we got involved.
And then we've also realised that it's about time some of our other venues had a little bit of a refresh. So Pock, nothing revolutionary. We're going to be giving the place a lick of paint and a few tweaks in the next few months. The tap room in York has been going, well, we've been going 8.5 years, so it's been going 8.5 years, funnily enough. And that's only had minor tweaks in that time, so we think it's about time that had a big refresh. That will be more revolution than evolution. We are looking to do some
exciting stuff,
significant changes there. Very tempted to tell you what they're going to be, but we think it's going to be way more exciting for you if you let us shut the doors, watch what we do, and then you can come back in and go, "That's shit," or "That's amazing."
So we're not talking about being closed for a long period of time, and the beer hall will still be open while we do the works in the tap room. But we want to make it a pretty impressive. Well, it is impressive anyway. It always is. It's nostalgic for us because it's where we started it all. It's where we drink. So if we go down to site, we don't tend to drink in the beer hall as often unless we're hosting you guys, and then we'll spend a lot of time there. Normally we'll spend most of our time in the tap room. So it'd be really cool what we've got planned for there, and that's at the same time as the fact that the production's going to scale up a bit more there. So going from two brews a week to maybe 3 or 4 brews a week. So it's going to be a much busier site, which could be pretty cool for you guys if you're coming down for a pint and there's lots going on in the background. So
and we're recruiting for a new tour guide there. So if anyone, Bob, has, if anyone is fancying a part-time job doing tour guiding for Brew York in the centre of York, check out our socials. I think there's something on there which will give you the details of what you need to do to register your interest.
And then what else have we got planned? Try not to do too many spoilers. We do have more work going on function and event space. So at the moment we have some pretty good private hire spaces across all the venues actually. And in time for Christmas, we'd like to enhance them. I can't tell you too much more about that until we get time frames and when we can do it. But if you've got Christmas parties, that's obviously when we'd like to be having them ready for. So we'll wait and see about that.
And then of the new venues, the mitre, the lower floor, there are some changes we would like to make to that a more usable space.
Yeah, it's a nice space, but again, it's not really been the focus of that venue for a while. So we've got a good food vendor in there. We'd like to make that really a nice place to go and sit and drink and eat. So that's gonna get a bit of attention over the next few months.
But don't worry, it's not going back to the nightclub days of old.
Yeah. Yes, so all sorts going on, and the one that we're obviously really excited about is what we're going to do to the original tap room. So look out for a subscriber preview. So we'll get you guys down and show it off before other people see it, and see what you think, and we'll iron out the kinks. If things aren't working, you guys will tell us, I'm sure, and we'll make sure it runs even smoother when we do a public launch.
Can we do a shout out for Horse and Ferry's extended range of canned beers?
Another tweet today. Joanna's just reminded me, the audience. So the Horse and Ferry has just had a new can fridge delivered. So like the guys have here in Pock, but they've gone full on bold. They've gone for the double can fridge. So I think they're expecting to sell a lot of canned beer. So hopefully the locals will enjoy the different enhanced range. The beers in the new venues, I don't know if anyone's been to them yet, but the new venues are primarily signature beer focus. So all the signature beers pour all the time there with a small selection of specials. And then, so if you want to try some of the specials, cans are the way to go in those venues. And it's worked really well. The signature range sells well. The locals know that they've got their favourite on when they go in. So that's been it's been quite a highlight, because I quite like going to them and knowing what I'm going to be able to get. But I do also get the fact that people do like variety. We're known for the different specials we do. So it's nice for them to be able to have them when they want them, and then recommend to the bar team, can you get that one on keg next or cask next?
But I mean, that's true. And the way I like to drink is to always pick out the next new thing, like many people these days. But someone was talking to me about our new venues, and they were saying that they still love them because our range is so big that they can have 10 pints without having to revisit a beer, if not more.
Who have you been talking to, besides me and you, who's going out drinking 10 pints?
Or maybe 10 halves. They can have 10 halves without having to revisit another drink. In fact, you can probably go further with it without having to have the same thing twice.
Yeah, it is a bit of a challenge when we open a new venue, because trying to narrow down what we put on in the venue to appeal to the previous customers as well as appeal to the Brew York customer base. And I think that's kind of helped us a lot in the last couple of years in the signature range and the type of customer we've been looking at. So trying to make the beer more accessible to other venues means that when we do move into a venue that's previously had mainstream lagers pouring with a Guinness and a few token cask beers, we've got like-for-like swaps in our range that are, in our opinion, a really good version of that. So
we took those concepts and we added flavour.
I mean, I love a Guinness when I'm at a wedding, but
Do you know what? Of all the macro things, I've got to say, guilty pleasure, I still love a Guinness.
But yeah,
Whatever the scenario, I do like a Guinness.
I wouldn't necessarily go into a venue and drink their what was it called? I can't even pronounce it.
Why did you just say Madry? Pick a
Yeah,
simple
Madry, I
one.
should have chose Madry, shouldn't I? Got these Spanish brewed, Tadcaster brewed Spanish lagers. So yeah, something for everybody in the venues, and including some of the wacky specials. Champarada went down a treat in Otley, which I was surprised they put it on. I thought that's quite a high strength for a market town, but they loved it. So,
but hats off to Dom, the POC team, and what has been created here. Because the reason we have those new venues and we've gone in that direction is because of the success of what we have here and the connection that you've created with the community here.
It's certainly opened our eyes because we go back to COVID, pre-COVID. Our vision for Brew York was bars in big cities throughout the country, because that's where we felt people would know who we were and who would buy our beers.
We were literally that close to having one in Manchester.
But it's it just shows that the drinking culture has changed slightly with a lockdown and working from home and the other things, and communities and pubs are what we feel the future is for us as a business. So we would rather have a Brew York in every suburb than one in a city centre. So that's where we're looking, and that's what we think is going to work best for us, because when you come into your regular and you get to chat with someone you know and you like, and you've got similar things in common with, makes you want to come back more and more. And if you've got a good landlord who'll engage with you as well and recommend the different beers, it just really makes the difference, rather than a mainstream lifeless city centre bar. And our bar in Leeds is definitely not that. So we do, if we do have city centre venues, we hope that they don't represent that, but you're more likely to want to go to your suburb pub where you're closer to home and you know more people and you enjoy yourself than being out in town.
And I think drinking culture changed through the pandemic. People are drinking more locally now than they ever did before, and people are working from home. So those Friday nights don't exist anymore, because people are working from home on Fridays, so they get that extended weekend. Because I'm sure they're really working from home on a Friday.
I want someone from who's watching at home to post a comment, because I'm paranoid that something's gone wrong with the feed, because Kerry and Pete are on holiday, so they're not posting every 5 seconds. I can't quite tell if.
We're still streaming there, so it must be active.
People. So okay, cool. Yeah, good shout. Well, I'll come back to. I'll actually go through that one while we get the next beer lined up.
Oh, that one there.
Early days, can you see the community spirit coming into the pubs?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. The question came from the audience here that although it's early days, can we see the community spirit coming into the new pubs? The new pubs we've taken on, and yeah, 100%. So the one that stands out to me right now is the Mitre, just because that's the one that's gone from being closed for 6 months up to being one of our busiest venues. So it's been brilliant, and seeing the same regulars every time I go down, seeing the same customers coming in who start to recognise and start to engage with conversation has been great. Otley's getting there, so every time I pop across to Otley, I seem to see the same couple of people, and each time I go down, and that type of feels really nice. I'm not familiar enough with Cooper's yet, but I see the comments and feedback we get on our social media being the same group of people. So it's been really good to see, and time will tell.
Yeah, I mean, hard to single one out, but I think that the one that has definitely surprised us has been the Mitre. It closed in December last year. You have to assume it's closed for a reason. So we didn't expect it to have the start that it's had since we've reopened it, and the feedback we're getting on that one in particular. I mean, we're getting good feedback on all, but on that one in particular, people are really loving what we've done to reinvigorate the place.
So, good question, a good witty comment from Captain VFC, and obviously a really good question from Daniel Sawyer, which wants to know when Lee's getting his big eagle.
Why have you nicked the sticker? All right.
So the next beer, we are going on to it, so don't worry. But yeah, Lee's got a big eagle. Hopefully you've all got big eagle cans, so it's not just us. Someone's not just pulling a fast one on us. So this is kind of the opposite to Big Eagle. I think it was an irony thing when the brewers decided to can this beer in a Big Eagle can.
And of these pre-printed cans, which we are being environmentally responsible by reusing them like this, we only have about 30,000 to go, and then we can start using normal silver cans or an alternative.
So yes, Nuba.
Is that? Oh, that is you.
It is me as well. It's me talking through Nuba.
I thought we were going to do the Alan question.
I've highlighted them to come back to later.
We're coming back to it. Right.
So the next beer is Nuba, our first ever New England IPA that we brewed many a moon back. Thinking about it was probably 2018. So
I think it was 17. Though.
Probably, yeah, 17. So anyone in the audience or back home, can you remember what beer we brought out alongside Nuba? We had two hazies. We had this one and we had a much lower ABV one.
I think I know what it was.
And we had, and if you're really good, you'll remember the can was very, very different to this. So see if you can remember that piece as well. So Nuba, our New England IPA, was first brewed about, I think it was 7.2%. Or was that the decoder?
7.2 was
the original can was actually black with splodges, and then there was two cans. There was one that was black with purple splodges, which is this, and there was one that was black with green splodges, which is the sister beer, which actually.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, all right. So I say green. I did say green, didn't I? Yeah.
I know. You got to come back. Don't give that
No
away
spoilers,
straight
we'll
away.
come back to
Let's
that.
see if anyone gets it.
So
Because I don't know.
well, when we first brought Nuba out, I think it was a good beer, but given all the things that have changed and the developments that have got on in craft beer in the last few years, we've taken what we've learned from the hazy style beer. We've incorporated into this. Isn't the same Nuba that we brought out. We think it's a bigger, better, and improved version of Nuba, and it's slightly lower in alcohol, but I think it's benefits from it. So 6.6%. I've forgotten how much I enjoyed this beer when it first came out. I found some cans of it in my shed bar the other day when I was doing a bit of a clear out, and I was so tempted to drink it. It was a little 330ml can. It was about 4 years out of date, but
And you held it in a shed for how many?
It was in a fridge in my shed.
Oh,
so,
okay.
But because I haven't been in there enough recently, there was all sorts. So same hop combination as we used to use, but we just used them differently. So Laurel is a hop that we got access to a few years back.
Well, it has evolved over the years. It's the same hop combination we used in the last iteration, but it isn't the same as what it was back in 2017.
OG. You probably couldn't get half of these hops back then if they existed. But yeah, Citra, Mosaic, Centennial, and Laurel, Simcoe as well, and just used slightly differently. So when we brew New England IPAs nowadays, when we brew England. I haven't had a beer for a while, so it's probably starting to show already. When we brew New England IPAs now, we tend to use some of the more modern hops that are designed and with the focus on brewing that type of soft beer. When we first brewed a New England IPA, we didn't have access to those hops, so we had to use some of the modern ones like Mosaic at the time to try and brew softer beers, and they work really well, but it's certainly different to some of the New Englands we brew now.
I don't know if it's partly the serving temperature because we've had our beers sat here for a while and they have warmed up somewhat. But I'm finding that.
Are you blaming that?
No. What I'm saying is, I'm finding courtesy of it having warmed up a little bit, and because of the beer that it is, I'm finding that ridiculously drinkable for 6.6.
Yeah, and
It's always been.
and it's so Nuba. We haven't even mentioned the name, have we? So the name Nuba came.
Nuba.
Mentioned the name of the beer. We didn't mention the origins of the name. So Nuba came about when we were trying to find a word for hazy at the time. We couldn't use something really super obvious because we'd already done that with its sister beer, which you are still trying to think of. And what we tried to do is go for something that said cloudy to let people know that the beer wasn't going to be clear in your glass, because that's where we were talking a few years back. People weren't used to hazy beers. So we wanted to be cloudy, wanted to make sure people knew that. So this is the Esperanto, is that right?
I then found, I think, courtesy of Google, that the Esperanto, the European kind of hybrid language that they tried to bring in, the Esperanto word for cloudy is Nuba. So that's why this beer is called Nuba. Yeah. Yes.
Did you know where the name Idaho 7 came from for hops? I only asked you that because somebody put
I've moved the whole table.
Rule 7.
So,
Where though?
but yeah, but Nuba came from that, and then the design has evolved. So let me quickly scan down the questions or answers to see if anyone remembers the. No one's got it.
So there was
in the audience.
So there was a second beer at the same time. One was purple, one was green.
Yeah, and you can't
How
remember.
do I know this?
Do you guys in the audience remember?
What's it begin with?
H.
Optimus.
H.
Triple H. Triple H.
Is
that the same time as this?
Triple H was the green, like neon green, and Nuba was the neon purple, and they were completely different designs.
I remember the beer. I just didn't realise that I'd forgotten they were the same time. We should do Triple H again. That was a great beer.
And then it became the wrestler beer during lockdown. So then that's why we started doing it. So Triple H at the time we brought it out stand for hazy, hoppy, and heavenly. And
Not
and it was definitely a reference to the wrestler. But at the time, the guys from United by Design said, we said to them, these are quite different to our normal range of beers. Our normal range of beers are the West Coast style or the clear beers. These are very different. They're a modern style beer. So we need a brand to represent these beers that doesn't look like our normal beers. So they went completely out of the box, and we had these black cans with these really modern, giving you a these really modern like blodges with little emblems that the guys designed. So they looked completely different to anything else we'd done, which was good and bad, because we then lost we were a relatively new brewery still, so we lost the tie into our brand identity. So when you saw them on the shelf, you didn't realise they were a Brew York beer, and we kind of didn't like that. And so when we did the next batch of that beer, maybe 6 months later, we asked the branding guys to have another go at it. And they came up with the Nuba design and brought the character into it and took it back to more aligned with what our normal range was. And at the time, the Triple H beer became the Triple H wrestler. So again, it was a character, but you wouldn't know those two beers came out at the same time unless you remember the original cans. And yeah, 330ml cans as well.
How long ago is it since you last had your
So how long ago was it since we last had Nuba? Not too long. I think maybe 2 years, maybe something like that. We definitely brought it out during lockdown because we had a back catalogue of beers that we hadn't brewed in a while. So one of the go-tos was we went to this. But at the same time as I've already mentioned the name of it, so there's no bonus point available. But when we had Nuba and Triple H, we also brought out a third beer in the same range, which had an orange label. And we'll get Lee when he comes back because he won't remember this one either. But that was a amped up version of Nuba, and I'm telling you that was crazy. I remember having like 1 pint of that and thinking I need to go home. It wasn't intentionally like that. It hit hard. It was just the alcohol wasn't as hidden as it is in some of the hazies we brew, and it was really enjoyable. But yeah, we were like, we're not bringing that again. That was just too much. Trying to show Lee the cheat answer now. So bonus point question for when Lee gets his microphone back on. So Nuba Triple H, we brought out another black can at the same time. Do you remember it? There was a third in that little.
Well, I didn't remember the second one. How am I going to remember the third?
And Waters loved it because it sounded rude. It was stronger higher in ABV than Nuba, and it was that style.
There was Dakota. Because he thought it sounded like Dick. Yeah.
Holder.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was just saying that one just it hit really hard. It was just really strong, wasn't it? And I don't even know where did the name of that one come from?
I think it was a Pixies album, if I remember rightly.
But yeah, I remember when we said we're bringing Nuba back, and what was his name? McGruber. What was his name? There's a guy who used to come in our tap room all the time who used to name all our beers.
Or at least thought he did.
He never did. He never named one of our beers, but he's like, I came up with a name for that.
No, he did name one of the beers.
What do you mean? He's like, that was my name, that beer. I was like, we literally don't just listen to your ideas and feed off them. What do you mean?
I have a feeling Juice Campbell came from him.
That was his, yeah. 100%.
I think he did name
Juice
that
Campbell and the Army of Dankness was his name. So he's probably watching now, and he's probably going to tell us.
Yeah, well, if he is, sorry for what I'm about to say. This is the same guy that told us that he invented the bistro. It's like, well, you're not old enough for that to have been possible.
So, how's everyone enjoying Nuba? It's nice, nice bit of nostalgia for us. And head brewer Johnny was excited about this one, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think I said at the start. Sometimes, as soon as you brew a beer, and you can smell the aroma that it's kind of throwing off in the cellar, and you can get, even though we brew like 75 new ones a year, and how many that we do regularly, sometimes you get a smell off a particular beer, and you get a little bit excited. And I think Johnny was especially excited about this particular beer because of how it was smelling in the cellar, and I think his excitement has been justified. I think it has turned into a great beer.
We've got a good one from Marcus in Aberystwyth. So Marcus has got a bar in Aberystwyth, and he put a beer with ours called "Avoid Peer Pressure" on. So we I'm sure Marcus will be able to comment a little bit more about a little bit of controversy surrounding that beer, but it worked pretty well. There's another bar in Aberystwyth called Peer Pressure, and Marcus's bar isn't called Peer Pressure, but the beer we brought out was called Avoid Peer Pressure, and the beer that we brought out was a pun with our friends from Green Dragon in Whitby. And
it was brewed by Jack, who at the time was one of our apprentices, now one of our brewers. And yeah, he regularly mentions that beer. He wants us to rebrew that. He thinks it's the best thing that's ever been brewed ever. And nothing to do with his involvement, I'm sure.
It was great, and it sold really, really well. It was one of our first new low ABV beers. So when the duty changed and sub 3.5% became a low ABV beer, one of the first ones we did, and because it was low tax, it made the beer even more affordable. Sold really, really quickly, so it was a cracking one, and I'm sure that Marcus would love us to bring that beer back.
I mean, not long after it, we did a blind taste testing with the team. I was trying to get the team to understand hazy beer and what works, what doesn't, and what the best examples are. So I completely anonymized 10 different beers, and 3 of them were ours, and 7 were some of the market-leading examples of that style. And Avoid Peer Pressure I threw in there as a bit of a curveball, and it actually did score really highly. And we did come out quite high up in the scores. I think we got the top 1.
Yeah, when we were up against the likes of Steady Rolling Man and...
I mean, I wasn't going to specifically name names.
So the market lead in hazies, Daya, Steady Rolling Man, Verdon... what's that called? Mine's gone blank.
Light bulb. It's the bigger selling one.
Obviously, a good benchmark for us to target, to make. We want our hazies to be on a par with the level of everyday hazies those guys bring out. They're like us. They bring loads and loads of specials out, and their specials go to town on hops, so they're really expensive, not easy to replicate. But their beers like Light Bulb and Steady have to be affordable. They have to be mainstream to get into bars around the country. So they're the ones that we try and benchmark things like Coney against. And in a blind tasting test, if Coney scores higher than they do, then that's a great result for us. And it's not just about the name of the brewery, it's about the actual what the beer tastes like. So we were really pleased that we've done a few, not just us hosting the blind tasting, but other people have given us blind tasting feedback where we've scored higher. So that's really great for us.
I'm just chuckling here. So because Kerry and Pete are aware, and that's the one time that I went to Lou first,
they won't believe me.
They're never going to believe it actually happened.
Only there's video evidence.
Unless there's some sort of video record of this having happened. Yes.
Exactly.
Can you flash up that comment from Adam Davison?
Yeah.
So Adam has said, so no Newcastle bar then. So we've said about a slight pivot in terms of our strategy in terms of bars. Newcastle is probably the one area that I would still be petitioning for a bar, because this is where all my family come from. This is where I went to university. I adore Newcastle. I would love to have a bar somewhere up there at some point in time. But unfortunately, Adam, there is no irons in the fire as far as Newcastle goes. That would be part of our longer term, not shorter term strategy.
So speaking of where you went to university then, so that's where I went to university. It's not on the screen for you guys yet, but I went to university in Sheffield. So Sheffield does hold a place in my heart as well for beer as well. It's great beer drinking city. Wasn't so much so when I was at uni there, but it's certainly changed a lot now. So we're not ruling out cities. We just got to find the right city where the scene's right, where we still feel we're going to have the local, where people would still have a good atmosphere and environment, and be able to enjoy the pub itself, not just the fact that it's got alcohol in it.
Yeah, and I
There's
think
also great venues in those cities that stock our beer.
yeah, and as Joanna has reminded us off camera, there are lots of great venues in those cities that stock our beer that we would not wish to step on the toes of. So, and each city is a different stage of its craft evolution. Manchester, I'm glad we didn't end up with a venue there. I think that is somewhat saturated, in my opinion,
Heavy
in
competition
terms of craft venues there now. I think it must be very difficult competition over there now. Whereas Newcastle, I still think there is some scope there. I think there's still a lot of appetite for craft, but who knows if there's the right opportunity at the right time for us. We'll have to wait and see.
So I got one from Alan Hoyland about, is Coney and Time Travelling Taxi coming to a Morrison store in the northeast? It'd be good to see more of the beers hit the supermarket shelves. So Coney, I'm forgetting which is which. No, sorry, Taxi is now in Morrison's nationwide. And so I say now.
But Coney is in Tesco's in the northeast. Yeah.
So Time Travelling Taxi is in Morrison's nationwide, but it's not even in the York stores yet. We supplied them quite a while back, but for whatever reason, it's not on the shelves in those stores.
Well, presumably because it's replacing Tom Coco in those stores, so they may be selling through that stock, and then once that's gone, Time Travelling Taxi will come.
Peak summer, and we've got a stout on the shelf they're trying to sell through before they put our hazy on, which will probably sell.
It's a very good stout, though.
But yeah, exactly, it's a very good stout. So, but yeah, these things take time, and when we got the listing changed, we were excited about it because we wanted Time Travelling Taxi. We want our hazy beers in the supermarkets because they do sell well, but they're also very well suited for this time of year. But these things, like we just said, they're taking their time.
Yeah, and if we're honest, and talk sheer economics, it's great to be known for a fantastic stout, but even a fantastic stout is outsold 4-1 by a pale, because there's just a lot more pale drinkers out there than there is stout drinkers. In the same way that the best pale out there is outsold massively by lager out there, because 80% of the beer drinking world is still drinking lagers.
If we could get a lager to supermarket.
Which is why a big part of our portfolio, as well as having our own venues, is why we're now big into producing lager.
Yeah, and it is also influenced by what we drink. We are prone to a lager every now and then. We went off that when we first started a brewery, and it's nice to have that refreshment in the range again, where we actually enjoy drinking it.
The pinnacle of brewing beer. The pinnacle of brewing beer is not doing ridiculously fruited things or ridiculously hoppy things, because with these styles, I can mask so many brewing inadequacies with the amount of fruit content or hop content that's in there. To brew a lager, you have to be sheer perfection when it comes to brewing, because anything you do wrong is going to show up. So to do a really good lager, that is the holy grail of brewing, because there's nothing kind of protecting you there. There's nothing shielding you. You've either done it right or you've done it wrong.
So if you got an award-winning lager, would you have done a good job? I've got another one that's come up.
Plus, it's a funny thing to follow. I like cramp. It's just a funny thing to follow us brewers at beer festivals now, because we're serving people who are chasing this 15% stout adulterated with marshmallows and whatever else. And then when we get a chance to move away from our stand, we seek out the best Pilsner that's at the festival, because it's the most refreshing thing. And for us, as I've said, that's what best demonstrates a brewer's capability. If I go and drink another brewery's beers and they serve a lager, the first thing I will drink is their lager, because that's going to tell me the most about what they can do.
And it's certainly not because we don't enjoy the styles that we brew and that other breweries brew. It's also about being able to stay on our feet for the whole session. And we want to drink accessible beers like a lager where it's a little bit lower strength, and we can enjoy the social aspect, and then still try samples of the really cool beers that influence what we will do and what we'll try and do in the future. So when we first started the brewery, myself maybe went, and somebody else might have gone a bit over the top sometimes at festivals and kid in a candy shop and overindulged. Whereas now,
especially the big dark stuff, yeah.
Oh, exactly. And now it's more like having the pint of lager in your hand, or the pint of low ABV pale, or something sensible, and going and trying the other stuff and trying to learn and develop and research and development, genuinely learning more about what other people are doing at the time and influences and things that we can take from that, so we can put it into our beers and make a better beer for you guys. Because once you've had a couple of 10% stouts, you're not going to remember much about the other things you taste, and it will also kill your palate as well. So
have we specifically addressed Emma's question that's been on the screen for some time now? So where you talked about jumping on bandwagons, any plans for a pastel de nata, which is a Portuguese custard tart beer?
Sounds pretty good.
It sounds like something I'd like to eat/drink, but yeah, try not to jump on bandwagons if we can, and if lots of people are already doing it, we probably won't. But yeah, I'm now
never say never.
I'm hungry for a custard tart.
Dessert series.
I mean, I love a Yorkshire custard tart. Oh, that's so good. With a little bit of nutmeg across the top.
Or Tonka, probably for you.
Sorry?
So my turn to.
I think Vocation did one, did they not? Guilo have done one, right? Okay. And then when I did the Merchant Adventurers Beer Festival, I sourced great beers from mostly Yorkshire breweries, and I got one from Vocation, which was called Pastel del something, and I'm thinking maybe now it was Nata. So I think maybe they'd done the Portuguese custard stout thing. And it was a collab with another brewery, which I'm now thinking is probably a Portuguese brewery then. Okay. So we got any questions in the room? Yes.
So you talked about marketing already, and I love some of the names that you guys come up with. You know, obviously, big creative process behind that. Are there any names that you've just flatly, they got to the final stage, you've just gone, actually, that's just wrong?
Oh, geez. Right, you're putting me really on this stuff. Right. So I've been asked. So we obviously put a lot into coming up with brands and names and so forth. Is there any names that have come up where we've just gone, no, that's not right, and we can't do it? Well, yeah, there will be a few for copyright infringement reasons we've opted not to do. And then there will be a few where our puerile humour thinks that they're great, but the rest of the world would maybe think not so much. And then there's other ones where maybe if we do it, they might kill us. So what was the Vladimir Putin one we wanted to do?
Didn't someone do a F Putin bit? Was that
No,
Bruno,
there was some sort of Vladimir Putin one we thought of doing, but I didn't fancy having the Stasi. No, Stasi was that KGB. I didn't fancy having the KGB coming after me.
When I walked back in, then I don't know what I was walking in on, but I heard Bob's idea for Beer Star. I thought.
Beer Star. Oh, that's quite good actually. Right.
We're in that one. Oh God. I completely forgot about that one. Horrible. Horrible.
Oh, here we go. Yes. Right, it'll come up on the camera here in a second. This is one we rejected. So we did a beer with York Dungeon. And obviously one of the most notorious characters in York history is Dick Turpin. And they wanted a beer to sell in their shop. And they said, we want to call it Dick Slurpin. And we were like, no, we are absolutely not doing that. And we ended up calling it Dungeons and Flagons. Yeah, well, they thought so.
Yeah, apparently. So it is time for the next beer. It's 8:30.
Right, well, you get pouring.
Well,
I need to talk, but
so it's a good point. Before we start pouring this beer, everyone in the audience and everyone at home, take note of the little sign that says, rotate gently before opening.
what? Right, you can have that one.
So it is very lowly carbonated. So it shouldn't, despite my shake and bake we should be able to pour it okay. You see? I knew it'd be okay.
That would probably work, Bob. Yes.
We can't recommend to people to shake a beer, but you actually can shake them because we don't go too high with the carb on this because it's so thick. And even if the vigorous shake that I did, I still managed to pour a pretty good pint. So
Yeah. So before we get into this, so this is a smoothie sour. Can anybody remember the last time we did a smoothie sour?
and how much trouble we got into for it.
So,
Oh yeah, actually the last one, yeah. Yeah,
where's which one?
Ice's bananas.
Oh yes, not the one I was thinking. Right. Sorry. All right. In my mind, I skipped an entire beer there. I was going to say juice, which we had done as part of the breakfast series that got us in trouble. Was that our 7th birthday? 6th birthday? 7th. One of our birthday beers, we did a beer called Juice, and that was the most amount of fruit we'd ever put in a beer. And this is the most amount of fruit we've ever put in since. So this is not far off being what they call a 50-50 beer. So legally, to sell something as a beer, 50% of, or in excess of 50% of the alcohol must come from a cereal, most commonly barley. So that means 49% of it can be fruit, a la this kind of thing.
You remind yourself.
Oh, it's lovely. That's very nice, actually. Yeah, and I've lost my juice. So juice we did. Was it
for our birthday 2 years ago?
Sixth birthday. Yeah. So we did a series of beers called the Breakfast Club.
Breakfast Club. Yeah.
There was juice, which was a smoothie sour, not too dissimilar to this. There was coffee, there was toast,
and tea.
So tea infused one, a coffee flavored stout, and whatever the one I missed was. And this was a very, very dangerous beer, and it did get us in a lot of trouble because we, in some of our social media, said it's one of your 5 a day. Apparently, you're not allowed to do that when describing alcohol.
Yeah.
And we also said it was good to have for breakfast, which again, apparently, you're not allowed to say in relation to alcohol. So, Advertising Standards Agency came afterwards, and we said, "Yeah,
to issue
you've got us completely banked to rights here. We are totally out of order. We had to issue a retraction." And so forth.
It's a good lesson because what we post on social media, you don't think of as an advert, but that's exactly what we are doing. We're trying to get everyone's attention to let you know about something we've done, which is what an advert is. It just happens to be our own advertisement board. So we post comments, we say things, we try to let you know a little bit about the beer, and tongue in cheek, we said one of your. We might have said definitely not one of your 5 a day, but by putting that was enough to then get their attention, and we had to issue a formal retraction and delete every reference that we'd ever put out to it. And we're like, well, if we're really honest, that beer's already sold out, so deleting the old post doesn't matter, but this feels a bit stupid and a waste of everyone's time. But
so if I said allegedly this is one of your 5 a day, can I get away with that?
Yeah, well, it definitely tastes like something I would drink at breakfast. Not saying that I'd drink alcohol at breakfast, I'm just saying that it tastes like...
But the one thing I'm finding with this, and with the original juices, because of the lower carbonation, it's so easy drinking, and it's so strong. And I remember the original juice, I think I had like 4 cans in an hour. And that one was...
Do not do that. It's not a recommendation from...
I'm not saying do this. I'm just saying it's stupidly achievable.
And one of the things we learned from that beer was not to call a beer the first name of a beer, of your biggest selling beer. So we had both on sale in most of our bars. We had breakfast juice, which is called Juice, and Juice Forsyth, which no one calls Juice Forsyth. They order it, have a pint of juice. So like, what juice would you like? The regular juice or the really strong smoothie style juice? So like, oh, there's a strong one. All right. Oh, no, that's not what we weren't trying to upsell there. We were just trying to clarify what you were ordering. But yeah, it's a great style of beer, and Vault City do it amazingly. So I haven't given you the update on this, but our collab with Vault City is now early next year because of their delays in moving to the new brewery and stuff. So they've asked us for ideas on what we want to brew. It's at a holding stage. We need to go back to them.
Cool.
But, they're doing some amazing, crazy beers like this.
Do you know, like, they do lots of fantastic things. So Vault City, I think, started 2019, if I remember rightly.
A few years after us, yeah.
So, just in time with COVID, but it hasn't held them back. So from 2019 to now, so we're talking 5 years, they've gone from a standing start to being, I believe they're either the second or the first in terms of sour beer production in Europe. So if you think of the long, like hundreds of years established Boone and so forth over in Belgium, their annual output is surpassing all of them inside 5 years. So they've hit on the right thing at the right time, and they do it damn well. So they're in Edinburgh, they have a fantastic bar up there called The Vault. Yeah, it's really cool. We should. So maybe we should talk more about the actual beer rather than our enjoyment of drinking it.
Yeah.
So this has been hopped with 2 ton of fruit. About 1 ton of that is mango. About 500 kilos of that is guava. It's pineapple, sorry. No, I was right first time. Guava. And then the remaining portion is pineapple. But you can see it is predominantly mango. That is like having a big, thick glass of mango.
You do get a bit of bitter piffiness that comes through, but that's kind of what makes it more like the breakfast juice or the smoothie, because you get the same thing when you're having a innocent smoothie. You're getting a bitterness, intense flavour from the fruit that's not being masked by adding artificial flavours like sugar and stuff. So,
although talking of adding artificial sugars, we do add lactose to this.
Tell you now at the end.
Sorry. I can see Bob in our audience is truly shocked, because we almost never use lactose, do we?
Well, actually, we don't use that as much, anywhere near as much as we used to. We had to reduce our contracts because we weren't using as much, were we?
Yeah. Well, as our annual production goes up, our use of lactose goes down. So that's a good thing, surely. But we still do use a decent amount of it. So the reason we use lactose in this kind of style is when the yeast ferments the fruit, it removes the sweetness that you would associate with the fruit. So if you taste that fruit without the associated sweetness, it tastes weird. It's not what you expect. So we use the lactose to replace the sweetness. So you're still getting the upfront flavor of the fruit, and then the lactose brings in the sweetness level that So it just balances it out. Otherwise, it wouldn't feel right to you guys. That's why we do that.
So, is there an alternate way of doing that without using lactose?
Yes, well, there's an alternate way of getting the sweetness without lactose. Yeah, we've used dextrose quite a bit.
Maltodextrin.
Maltodextrin, sorry, yeah. Dextrose is for higher ABV beers. But it doesn't. If you've tried our vegan versions of our lactose beers, they're good, but they're not quite as good, and it costs more to make them, which is why we.
Lactose has added benefits. It brings a certain creaminess, and it brings a thickness. It makes the body bigger, which when you're trying to make something that's supposed to be thick like that, that's an added advantage. Maltodextrin can make the beer a little thinner comparative to lactose. And at higher usage levels, there's a perceptible flavour that kind of jars against other things. So we've experimented with it, like you've said, to try and do good examples of vegan beers. I don't think we've quite nailed it yet, I think maybe it needs to be maltodextrin and something else.
We've had a couple of suggestions, and we're on a massive time lag on that screen. I don't know what Don did before he left, but yeah, finally, as I say, I put that on about a minute ago. So I had a suggestion for a Vault City Kernel. I quite like the sound of that. As a Tom Coco variant that they do.
Deep fried. I get it. Because we're going to Scotland, we need to deep fry something. That's it. I get it.
They've got a series out though at the moment, haven't they? Deep fried.
Have they?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realise that.
Yeah, there's a deep fried stout series out at the moment. Yeah.
Does sound good.
So we've been told off camera that there is a deep fried stout series out at the minute. So that makes a bit more sense then. Right. Okay.
Oh, is that the DDF? Something deep fried, double deep fried.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is.
Okay, right. Well, we need to sing these beers out then.
Yeah, well, I've got some really cool beers I forgot to tell you about. So Tyler was up in Scotland not too long back. Tyler's our business development manager, trying to think of his right job title. And he went to a couple of breweries while he's up there. He's brought a load of beers back for us to try because there's a collab he'd like us to do. And they're all in my fridge, and there's some really good ones in there. But
who's that with?
I
knew you wouldn't know.
I can't remember. No, exactly. Shh, it's a secret. I'll tell you soon. Tell you off camera. Tell you off camera. Yeah. I'll tell everyone in the room as we go off camera.
So a few more things we can tell you about this beer. So we love this type of style, but we don't make it that often because we don't have the technology to mix, to homogenize beer. So you can have mixing tanks. So if you think of a big tank and a big impeller inside that's just constantly doing this to mix it, so then whenever you're taking liquid out of that tank, it is homogenized. It's kind of a similar consistency. We don't have that ability. So when we do these kind of things, we have to attach a pump to the tank, and we take a bit out of the bottom and we pump it back in somewhere up the top. At the same time, we're taking the beer away to be packaged. So we're kind of mixing it in that way at the same time that we're taking it away to be packaged. Because if we didn't do that, the first people whose beer we packaged would get this lovely, thick, glorious stuff. And then the bit that we did at the end would be this really thin, still tasting nice, but you couldn't call it a smoothie stuff.
And that does happen because unfortunately the same concept applies. When we put this in your can, we're telling you to roll it for the same reason. We don't want you to pour the top of the can to be like really liquidy, watery, bottom to be pulp. It's not too bad because you guys are going to pour that into your glass and maybe mix it anyway. But if you've got the same consistency in a keg, the landlord is going to accidentally pour all the watery stuff in his first few pints, and then he's going to ring us up and say, "I can't serve it anymore. It's really thick." Did you shake it? No.
Is that short?
Which is why for the sale of this particular beer, we've put it into. So normally you would sell beer in 30-litre kegs. Every now and again you might sell it in a 20-litre keg if it's something really strong and you think it's not going to move very quickly. We've done this in 10-litre kegs. 10-litre kegs. So it's a small amount, so hopefully it's sold kind of quickly.
On the big camera gesticulating.
Well, I always do, I talk with my hands, whatever.
So you can shake it and open it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we
exactly
advise,
what we've said. They're going to have to do that kind of thing once a day. Yeah.
So these are expensive beers.
And that's easier if it's 10 litres.
As you'll see in the can and the pint of the price of a pint. So the landlord wants to make sure he sells this premium beer in the way it should be. So ideally, every day when they come in, rotate the keg, give it a shake, and then get ready to go, which is an absolute pain in the ass for the landlord. But they've chose this beer for a reason, because they know their customers like it. So there's no point serving the watery liquid bit and then ending up with a beer that they can't serve, because we've put the advice on the keg. We can't give everyone a refund if they don't follow the advice. We have to make sure that they do it because we want you guys to taste the beer its best. When we brought juice out, I remember we went to Norway, and we were in a really, really cool bar in Norway, and they had this beer on. And Norway is already expensive beer. Our beer had been imported, an expensive beer we brewed, imported to Norway, and the price per pint was off the chart. And the guy poured us a beer, and it was our beer, and it was like liquid. It was.
Oh, is this
It
when
was
you
like
had-
this.
You
It was the
asked to
difference
go
between
down to
that,
the cellar,
and I was
didn't
like,
you?
"Can I go look at your cellar, please?" And he was like, "Oh yeah," and he was excited to show me his cellar. I was like, "Just shake that up a bit," and we explained it to him, and he was really cool about it. But then the team started doing it on a daily basis, which made the most for that beer.
But yeah, hopefully in 10 litres, what's that? Slightly under 20 pints, 18 pints. Hopefully it sells quick enough that they can sell that in a day and they don't have to worry about shaking it. Because then they want to serve in the next 10 litre and they can just shake that and then they'll off they go.
It kind of it's hard to say, I should say, but it kind of takes a little bit of the process out of it. Your 10-litre keg's likely to kick much quicker, so you have to go in and get the next one on. If you're going to put the next one on, you know you're going to have to shake it again. So let's make the.
I mean, there are other things we could experiment with which we've not done yet, like xanthan gum. So, like xanthan gum's a big part of various smoothies that stabilizes it. So it kind of glues it all together, so you don't have to rehomogenize it. Don't know how successful that would be, but we might have a try of that at some point.
So, have we got any other questions? We haven't really had many in the audience. They're just obsessing over.
Well, sorry, before we get to
DDF
that,
beers.
Pete would be annoyed if we didn't talk about why it's called Malicious Mango.
Oh yes.
So Pete is our marketing manager. So what is the best-selling smoothie range in the UK? Innocent. So Pete, our marketing manager, went, we're going to do guilty. So we're going to do a guilty range of smoothie sours. The first of which is therefore Malicious Mango. So expect other vicious sounding fruit soon.
And the can artwork was a smoothie, the god blender, the smoothie blender, who was like some artificial god they were worshipping in a dark cave, which had to be dark. That was spouting out all the different fruits that went into it. So yeah,
Is that what that's all meant to be? Okay, yes. Yeah.
I say this every time to our sales team. I'm sure our sales team will be able to sell it on cask, and then get these guys to agree to rack some of it. Yeah, 100%. I can't wait to try it on cask.
We've been asked if we would do some of the Imperial Tom Cocoa on cask. It's hard to do cask and keg off the same batch, especially when we as a brewery spun. And what spun means is we have a pressure release valve that allows some of the CO2 to be retained within the beer and carbonate, and the excess CO2 is vented. So that allows us to produce keg beer without having to inject CO2 in it if we've got our numbers right. If we want cask beer, what we have to do is leave the vent open, allow it to do its fermentation, dispense all of its CO2. We then rack the fuel cask, which is only ever going to be a handful, and then we seal that valve, and then we squirt loads of CO2 into it to do what could have been done naturally by the yeast.
Old-fashioned beer is the best.
So I think Lee's saying a long roundabout way. Yes, he's going to do some cask beer. But it might not be as easy as we'd like it to be. But if we can get at least 10 venues agreeing to stock it, so anyone out there, tell your local, get 10 venues agreeing to stock Imperial Tom Cocoa on cask, it's a deal.
What, 8 yourself?
Alan's just shouting, we've got 8 venues ourselves.
Cool, we don't need to sell 2.
Exactly. So 10 independent venues so that we can then add to our 8 that we're going to stock it.
Tyler's got 30.
So we've got one a comment on screen now.
I'm glad you drew attention to that. Yeah. Sinister strawberry, that has to happen. I mean, strawberry is a really difficult flavour to work with in beer. But for that name, I think it's worth an attempt.
Exactly. Especially if it's a thick, pulpy one, it'd be pretty cool. So let's tell you a little bit about what's coming up next month. There's one that's not on here that I'm hoping will be on here, which I'll add at the end. So
I've stopped saying exactly what 4 beers we're going to taste. What we now do is we give you a list of things, and it will come from those things.
So first up, it's our baby brother beer to one of our favourites, which is Kirsch Russell. So coming soon is Big Trouble in Little Kirsch. So a 5.5%.
Yeah.
So
what a film that is! I love that film.
So a 5.5% take on Kirsch Russell with an homage to Big Trouble in Little China and some pretty cool artwork to come.
And then sticking with the film theme,
And
we're then doing
90s theme.
And 90s, although it has had a recent rehash.
Yeah.
We are doing a 7.1% West Coast IPA called Beverly Hills Hop.
And one we alluded to earlier, the Equinox Idaho 7 and Mosaic Hop Sessions 11.
And then we have the two we've already told you about, Imperial Tonkoku mix, a return, alongside a cookie and cream variant, which, is it a working title, Mookie's and Cream, or are we calling that beer Mookie's and Cream?
Mookie's and Cream.
Right.
And then I'm sure you'll all be one you've all been waiting for. I've even seen a comment on Instagram about it earlier.
There she is.
Don't
know that one.
All right.
There she is.
The OG's coming back. Rhubarb Streisand, unadulterated, just the original rhubarb and custard pale.
The original.
Original, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And then the one you're all really, really excited about, Blue Jay.
The low alcohol
Low
lager.
alcohol lager. Yes.
And then,
After anybody at work.
yeah, because it's little in strength.
Whoa! Oh!
But really hard working. So
Does the job.
exactly, does the job well.
I-
So the other one
I think we best move on.
we haven't listed.
What's not on there that you want to mention?
I'd like us to get into the box, but it's not guaranteed yet. Is a certain barrel aged variant.
Can I? No, let's
Yeah.
say it. Let's say it. Are you by any chance meaning Rum Sunday?
Yes. So we got barrel aged rum sundae, which we.
I feel we need to get that in there next time, because if we're going to give you a 0.5%, we need to balance it out with a, don't we? Yeah.
What percentage is that?
I
10.6.
Can you put that on the tasting?
No,
I'm not here in September.
I forget exactly. It's in the region of 10 to 12. I can't remember exactly what it was. Big enough is the answer.
What's that going to be based on?
Rum Sunday, which is the collaboration we did with Nerd Brewing. So Nerd Brewing from Sweden. It was there was a cracking beer we started off with a really cool rum rum aged. We started with a really cool rum stout, imperial stout, and now we've barrel aged it, so it's going to be even better. And it's soft and smooth.
I think it was a rum and raisin stout.
Rum and raisin, yeah.
It's a rum and raisin stout that we then aged in rum barrels. So this is it coming back out of the rum barrels.
Our rum barrel aged beers have always been our best sellers, so this one's going to be a great beer that's been barrel aged rum that's going to hopefully be even better.
Cool.
Easy for me to say.
Indeed. In terms of events that you can find us at, so this coming weekend, 9th to the 11th of August, you will find us at an event called Hookstone Hooley, which is Harrogate Brewing Co.'s beer festival in, funnily enough, Harrogate, where ourselves will be joined by Harrogate Brewing, Meanwood and Piglove.
And then the week after, we're at First Races for sausage and craft beer.
I mean, what's wrong with that? I mean, that sounds perfect.
That's the Friday, the 16th of August. And that's on the back of our relationship with the stadium in York. So CGC invited us to do this. I think it's going to be pretty interesting. But it was just, they've got this really cool concept. It's sausage and craft beer. I was like, sounds good. We're in. So that one's us.
Fancy dress.
Who's?
Oh, I don't know who else is there.
Yeah,
there's
Ainsty. It's us, Ainsty, Feekstons, and another brewery. I'm not sure which. So that should be pretty interesting.
Then after that, we are, as disclosed earlier, surprisingly soon, Leeds International Beer Festival, 5th to the 8th, which I assume is at Kirkstall
Abbey again.
Yeah.
So if you need any accommodation, we've got a really cool place in Otley. You can commute from Otley and yeah, exactly. And then, so week after that, 2 weeks after that, you missed one.
What for missed?
2 weeks after that, it's not a festival that we're actually pouring per se at, but York Beer Festival at the church next to the Rook and Gastel. Don't know what church that's called.
St. Lawrence.
St. Lawrence Church. So that's on, and then the same weekend, Lee's off up to Newcastle.
Yeah, so 20th to the 21st of September is Full Circle's first ever beer festival, which should be a good one. So on the 21st, I travelled down to...
my birthday.
Is that your birthday?
Yeah.
The 21st?
Yeah.
So on your birthday, me and Polly travelled down to Cornwall on an 8.5-hour train.
And you were at a beer festival the day before.
Yeah, I may have not mentioned this yet. But I'll be fine because Polly never makes it to the end of this. So she's usually tuned out about beer 2 or 3 because she thinks we're too drunk. So yeah, 20th to the 21st, Full Circle Beer Festival in Newcastle at their venue.
And October's looking a bit barren at the moment. If only there was a few Oktoberfests going on in every Brew York venue.
Right. I downloaded the file called events.
I'm not saying you don't. No, this is more breaking because we don't actually communicate internally enough. So every venue, so not necessarily POC unless you guys want a Oktoberfest, in which case we'll have a chat with Dom. But the Beer Hall, Coopers and Guiseley, Horse and Farrier and Otley, in particular, those 3 venues are going to have some bigger Oktoberfest. We're going to get some interesting different beer, guest lagers in, as well as our own Oktoberfest beers, some steins, some sausages, and some lederhosen, and some umper bands. That's going to be pretty cool. Dom in lederhosen committed to that.
You had Bob at lederhosen.
Is that in the director of our contract as well?
Yeah.
You don't like being slapped happy.
So yeah, that's
from one of the venues.
yeah, we'll do a live stream. Well, actually, we do need to talk about that, so potentially. And then Oktoberfest typically is the last week in September, but we're going to do the UK Oktoberfest, which is the start of October, just because it works better for us.
And we're also supporting York's established Yorktoberfest, which is held up at the racecourse.
So if you do
we're the principal beer supplier for that as well.
So all the beer that's on sale there will be ours. So it's different types of Brew York beer. So definitely give it a go.
And then one we're really excited about, and I cannot recall if we've actually mentioned it on here before, is we will be making our first appearance at Dark and Wild, Northern Monks Dark and Sour Festival. That is on the 2nd of November. And we will be launching 2 new beers there. Itching to tell you more details about those, but I can't right now.
And then it'd be awesome if there was like a little keg festival at maybe Hanley Tap, where we normally do our birthday festival. That'd be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool. But I feel like more conversations need to happen before we announce such things.
So more of a save the date than an official announcement, but make sure that the weekend after, was that the one we'd earmarked? Weekend after Dark and Wild, or was it the weekend after that? It's December.
I would say tune in next time for firmer details on when we might be possibly doing another event at Handley.
And bring your thermals. Yeah, we'll bring beer. You guys bring the thermals.
If we do another event at Handley, it would be only in the building that has the Handley Tap. So you wouldn't be wandering between venues. You would not be exposed to the elements. So hopefully we can get a better control of the temperature.
So the other things to tell you about in the next YouTube session. So 13th of September, we're going to do the live tasting from Cooper's, our bar in Guiseley. So it's one with a huge stage and 100 capacity venue. So we need to sell 100 tickets. Don't need to sell 100 tickets, but that would be pretty cool. And then the one after that in October, currently planning on doing it in York, so that might be your Oktoberfest. Lee will be in Lederhosen for that one. Friday the 11th. And then the 8th of November, it's just after the Halloween beers are released. Because Could do a Halloween themed one. Yeah.
Kind of feels like we need to, even though it's slightly after the fact. I feel like that needs to be a Halloween.
Fancy dress tasting with the theme of our.
Although we should say by this point in the stream, we forget what we've said, so somebody might need to remind us that we've committed to a Halloween.
Our next 3 tastings are all fancy dress, and we just haven't told you what it is. And we need to then switch to people at home with shots, so like upload photos of you in your fancy dress.
So I think before we disappear, we should flash up some of these suggestions, particularly Emma Thomas's ideas for what might feature in our guilty series of smoothie sours.
So we had the sinister strawberry. What about the?
So it'll take a while to come up there.
Forever to come up.
We've got pernicious pineapple. Which I'm impressed at how well I pronounced that, given the amount of beer I've had now. We have painful papaya. Sorry, not your finest work, Emma. Baleful banana. But anyway, keep working on there. Oh my God! And Captain VFC has said, "You mean Lederhosen?" Oh dear.
Oh, good.
Oh. Killer kiwi, that's good. Killer kiwi, very good. And kiwi, well, I think kiwi does feature in smoothies a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Providing you filter out those little seedy things.
Cruel cucumber.
Gross.
Cruel cucumber.
That would be cruel if we brought a cucumber.
Who's buying that? Who is buying a cucumber smoothie?
The Thornbridge one.
Drinking even.
So Alan off camera said a lot of people drink cucumber smoothies, and none of them because they want to.
Yeah. Let's hope we can con enough people into thinking it's a health kick, and then they go. So a good question on from Adam Davison. Any news on the January subscriber party?
Yeah, it's going
to be amazing.
It's going to be in January. There you go, exclusive.
Yeah. As usual, it will be the launch of Empress, and we'll try and we'll do it in our new
thing that we haven't
told you about. It's going to be bigger and better, so we'll do it in there. We haven't told you about, but it will be good.
Dressed as a hop.
Yeah, fancy dress, obviously.
Can we get a fairy tale of Brew York t-shirts?
Oh,
nice Christmas t-shirts.
Oh, we've had a good one there. So did you do lecherous lime?
We'll leave the lecherous ones off screen. But blackcurrant would be a good one. But what did I just say and forget straight away? T-shirts, yes, Christmas t-shirts or Christmas jumpers.
Yeah.
Christmas jumpers. Pete, if you're watching, Christmas jumpers would be amazing. So I got my
This is where we have to buy another one because we've grown out of it yet again.
Exactly. Every year we're going to do a new Christmas jumper. Who too? Everyone in the team.
We tend to grow at the same rate, so we're not help to each other.
Yeah.
All right, Joanna, would you like a Slipknot jumper?
All right. So Dom's up for it. So we've done it. We've run for 2 hours again, and we've almost gone through all the questions. We have gone through all the questions. So maybe do one more from the audience, and we'll wrap it up because we didn't ask you as many as we thought we would.
Assuming somebody has one.
Joanna's always got a question. Dom's in the back. He's got a question.
Last one. Fairy tale of Brew York t-shirt.
We had it. Okay, we won't post you anymore. We'll thank you all for joining us at home and in the audience. Come join us again at Cooper's Geyser next month, 13th of September. We want to sell 100 tickets. I say sell. I mean, you can attend for free if you ask nicely. But that'd be cool if we've got 100 people attending a live tasting.
There's no way we're getting 100 people.
On a Friday, that's the challenge. 100 people on the Friday 13th.
Possibly, if we're giving the beer away, yeah.
Free entry, but they can buy the beers.
Exactly.
But anyway,
we'll arrange a bus from here.
Problem for another day. Thank you once again for attending, guys. Been awesome. Any feedback, get it into info@brewyork.co.uk. Cheers.
Thank you.